Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second to last week with our Working in Theater series, a co-production of Maroon Arts and Culture and Center Theater Group. I'm your host, LJ, and I'm so excited to be with you all here today, coming at you live from my beanbag chair, because today's session is called Self-Care for the Artist. And if there's one thing that I really do need in my life more than anything else, it's a self-care practice. So today we're going to talk to two experts. We're going to ask them questions. We're going to attempt to define self-care, and we're going to discuss how we can use self-care as artists to help our artistry and also help us to stay sane. Before I bring them up, I just want to acknowledge that I am coming to you from the ancestral lands of the Tongva people in Southern California. Please feel free to share in the chat your name and where you are joining us from here today. I also would like to call on my great-grandmother, whose chosen name is Khadija Akmal. As those of you who have been watching us know, sometimes I like to call on an ancestor for strength. And today, I need her strength, I need her determination, and I need her just hard work ethic. So I'm excited to bring up my two guests. Today, we'll be talking to Jamie Hood. I can imagine everyone at home is giving her a round of applause. And my friend Jaquay Wade Pearson. Also, I'm sure you all are giving her thunderous applause. Why don't you introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourselves? Jamie, do you want to go first?
Hello, everyone. Thanks, LJ. And it is so nice to be here. My name is Jamie Hood. I'm a Vedic meditation teacher and a longtime theater artist right here in Los Angeles, but I've performed all over the world. And it was all of the uncertainty of pursuing a life in the arts that led me to learn this profound meditation technique that has changed the way I approach my art and improved my life a millionfold. So I'm happy to share anything I've learned with you today.
Wonderful. Jaquay, tell us about yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jaquay. I teach Hatha Yoga. I've taught yoga for 7 years and a lifelong artist. I began my journey in yoga as a really an outcry for relief with issues that I was having with anxiety and depression just as a younger adult. And I have tried to incorporate that in everything I do from cleansing from characters, from preparing to do artistic work, and just believing in myself in general, and being able to be a good mom and wife. So I look forward to sharing some of the things that I am doing and my journey, because I certainly haven't made it, but I'm excited to share.
Well, it is a practice, isn't it? I think that that's one thing that we can all agree on. It's all a practice. And when you're trying to identify a self-care practice and figure out how it works in your life, if you're striving towards some type of end goal, I feel like that's stressful. I don't know. Do you all agree? Yes. Okay, so just a reminder, if you're just now joining us, please feel free to let us know where you're joining us from. And introduce yourself in the chat and get your questions ready, of course. So let's just start by trying to define what self-care is, right? Is self-care me waiting for my favorite boutique to go on sale with their new items at 2:00 in the morning and then spending more money than I can afford? Is that self-care? This is what I need to know.
I would say yes and no. Everybody knows that shop therapy is a real thing. However, I think with anything that we do that we enjoy, if it's hurting us, then that's self-destructive behavior. And we all know when we look at our bank account balance, we know what self-destructive is, and we know what a good sale, that you can't miss is. Okay. But we definitely have to, when you're talking about what self-care is, you have.
Uh-oh, did she freeze or is that just me? Jamie, do you have something to add until she comes back?
Well, I 100% agree with everything Jaquay is saying so far. Yes. But I would say that anything that is an external hit of pleasure, like 2 a.m. shopping at your favorite boutique, is going to come with a little kickback. It's going to come with a little hangover. So I wouldn't put it in the self-care category, but I say, if it happens, you say, all right, well, that happened. Deal with the hangover and move on.
Okay. Apparently, Camille felt that was very specific. I'm just saying that, sometimes people use that as an excuse. So if maxing out your credit card, even though you have nowhere to go, is not a form of self-care, what is self-care? Like, what is it versus what is it not?
Yeah, I'll go for what I think it is. I think it's any action you take. I actually wrote it down. I thought this was good. You tell me, LJ. You all can tell me. Self-care, action taken to tend to the needs of the body and mind with the intent to create or maintain well-being.
Oh, I think that's perfect. I think that is really, really good. Yes, because you got to add that intent on there, right? You have to add that intention on there. Yeah, I like that definition of self-care. So I have some questions about self-care. We actually, can you actually say the definition one more time, just in case people missed it?
Yeah. Action taken to tend to the needs of the body and mind with the intent to create or maintain well-being.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think the words that stand out to me are action. It's not just an idea that you marinate on and think that one day you'll make time for it. You do have to like actively try to create a self-care practice. So I think that is definitely standing out to me. Hold on, I think Jaquay is coming back. Let's get her input on it too. Welcome back from your journey to the other side. Jaquay,
Gonna
did
be
you
a
hear?
lot of this today, I guess.
No worries. That's why we like StreamYard, because we'll all be here and you can just come back whenever. No biggie. Did you catch Jamie's definition of self-care?
I did not. Jamie, enlighten me, please.
I'm sorry. We're going to do it one more time. Studies show that
All
the
right.
more you repeat something, the more people are able to retain it anyway. So this is
The
good.
third time is the charm. Action taken to tend to the needs of the body and mind with the intent to create or maintain well-being.
We love that, right? Amazing. Okay, so self-care and artistry. The word action, right? You have to do something in order to maintain a self-care practice. But a lot of times when we're an artist, we have a hard time finding time to be creative, have a full-time job, make money to pay our rent. How do you all have any tips on how we can make time to include a self-care practice? Like, how do you even make it a priority? Any tips for that?
Well, before my connection goes out, I want to make sure I get this one in. I would say you definitely need to put yourself at the center. A lot of times,
Is she frozen again,
those
or is
at
it
the
me?
center.
Oh, okay. I think that Jaquay is going in and out. I don't know. She's got kids on virtual school. That's how it is sometimes. But we'll keep it rolling. Jaquay, you're going in and out, so we keep missing what you're having to say. But Jaquay, you do have access to the chat. If you want to, you can finish your thought in the comments, and everyone will be able to see it, myself included. Jamie, what is your advice for making time for a self-care practice? How do you do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's literally like making a budget. It's challenging. So all of us, when faced with the idea of, all right, I have a budget, here's how much my rent is, here's how much groceries are, here's what I can spend. And you have what comes in and what goes out. So your time is like a budget. And I think you literally have to approach it that way so that you prioritize your well-being and your creativity while still having a stable life. I think a couple weeks ago, LJ, you talked to some people about having a funding mechanism, a job that funds your passion. And so when you put it like that, then it's not a slog. It's like, oh, I'm showing up for this job, which I'm not passionate about, but it funds my passion. So I think the same is true for prioritizing self-care and creativity, is that you have so much to budget. Make it a priority. Put it in the pie graph.
I couldn't agree with you more. One thing that I do tell myself often, and I try to remind the people in my life, is you cannot pour from an empty cup. And so self-care for me is making sure that I have the peace of mind and that that I'm centered and grounded, so that when I go out here and try to hustle for maroon arts and culture, I don't hustle myself into an early grave. It's really important to me because I feel that I feel like it's a revolutionary act to a certain extent to be able to take the time and claim the time to have a self-care practice. It would be the easier choice to just ignore it altogether and just, run myself ragged. But to say no to certain things so that I can take time to take care of myself, to me, feels like a little miniature revolution. And I guess because I'm, rebellious type, that kind of motivation works for me. I also feel too, and I wonder, Jamie, if you could talk a little bit about this, and Jaquay, if we can get her back, and also Jaquay in the comments too, if you wanted to add. But as an artist, I feel that my self-care practice adds to my art as an art form. What do you think about that? And how do you think that self-care can influence your artistic expression?
Yeah, I think that I totally agree with you. And, for me, having learned meditation, it started to permeate the way I approach my art on stage and off. So the way I would show up for an audition or the way I would show up to rehearsal was being influenced by the time that I spent with my eyes closed, letting go. And so I could walk into an audition with that same kind of letting go. It's not mine to lose. So then I don't make myself crazy going, I have to have that job. If I don't have that job, I'm not who I think I am, and it's going to define me. And I'm a loser if I don't get that job, right? That weird mind stuff that we can do to ourselves, whether you're an actor or whether you're any aspect of artistry. We can put a lot of emphasis on getting something or acquiring something that we think might define us. But what happens when I started to let go for 20 minutes twice a day was that I was bringing that to the room. It's like, I'm here, I'm present. If you want to work with me, great. And if not, good luck,
I think that's self-care for your own peace of mind going into the audition, but also to say, if not, good luck. It's also leaving a positive little piece of energy in the room as well. And you don't want to leave audition situations or, any situation, job interview or otherwise, with any negative energies in the room. So I like that, wishing them good luck, whether they choose you or not. Also, for me, and a mantra, something that I say pretty often is like, if it's for me, it's for me. And if it's not, it's not. And I heard you say something similar to that at the beginning. If you want to work with me, you can. But if you're not interested, you don't have to. Can you talk to us a little bit about your meditation practice? Meditation is something that's challenging for me, but that's because I thought it was all about being still and making the mind quiet. I've kind of changed my position on that, but I would love to hear more about what your practice is like. And I think Jaquay, you want to come back? I see you got a different background. Did you move to a different place?
I know I'm closer to the router. I was like, here's the Christmas feel. It's the Christmas appeal
Oh,
look. They'll like it. Um, I would say, and to add to what you're saying as, artists and to prepare, I love that of going in the room and dropping the expectation and letting go of the attachment of that pressure you've put on yourself. And applying those eight-limb path, 8-limb principles to what you do in art. And so, yeah, do no harm. Don't harm yourself. Don't harm your mind thinking about the future, and live in the present and detach from the expectations. Also, just having a meditation practice, it allows me to understand where my square one is. So who am I, and who am I in this set of circumstances in the work? And so the more I get to know me, I feel like the better I have a grasp on jumping into other characters. And so it only helps, I guess, kind of with the discovery as I discover myself as a real character. I'm able to navigate whatever I'm given on the stage, or, in choreography or whatever.
I love that. Yes, it can. Yeah. So Jaquay is an actress. I'm a dramaturg, and I feel the same way. Actually, I feel that when I give somebody information to contextualize a piece, the information is better enacted if they can center themselves first, and then identify their own. It's connected to the method, right? You figure out who you are, and you center your own experiences, and then you branch out from the center, and you find connections to your characters this way, through information that you get externally. So let's talk about a meditation practice. Let's just figure out what that is, because a lot of people are interested in it, but they're nervous about it, or they feel that they can't do it, like it's something that either can or can't be done. So Jamie, can you tell us a little bit more about what kind of meditation you do, and tips for people that want to try to pick up a meditation practice?
Yeah, so I'm a Vedic meditation teacher, and the kind of meditation I teach is called Nishkam Karma Yoga. And yoga means unity. And the other part of that means, this is all Sanskrit, it means with the least amount of effort. So this is like my kind of meditation. You're not making any effort in order to gain unity. And what are you unifying? Individual self to universal self. So it's a practice that you do with your eyes closed for 20 minutes twice a day in a really easy seated position. You don't have any mudras to make. Those are little hand symbols. You're just relaxed with the eyes closed, and you have a mantra, and your job, once you get your mantra, is to forget it. So you're sitting there with your eyes closed and you're letting go. You picked up something and then you let it go. And that to me was, like, to borrow your word, LJ, it was revolutionary, because I hear from a lot of people, oh, I can't meditate. I have a monkey mind and I don't know how to stop thinking. And when I discovered this kind of meditation, I was like, oh, thoughts are part of the meditation. And it's totally okay. And I don't have to make myself not think. All I have to do is think the mantra and let it go. Wow. But there are so many kinds of meditation, and I encourage you to explore. Go try guided. Go try mindfulness. Try just to see what it's like to have your eyes closed. But I want to add, if you're one of those people who are like, yeah, I think too much, there's no way I can sit still, I just want to tell you that you can do it. There is no monkey in your mind. Your mind is a king or a queen, and it's just looking for a throne to sit upon. So we just want to make our mind a beautiful place for that king or queen to sit down, right? So no monkeys in there.
I love that. That's good practical tip, good practical advice. Jaquay, do you have something to add about meditation?
I will say this, and excuse my toddler. He has to cope. He has to cope with the nap. But I will say, with doing the meditation and quieting the mind, one thing that helped me, and I do, I'm always all over the place, very busy, thoughtful person, um, was focusing on my breath and focusing on counting inhales and counting exhales, or visualizing the light traveling up the Shishuminati and like down as I inhale and exhale. Another thing that I will say that's just practical, if you're not a visualization person, or if you're not like I don't feel like counting sheep literally through, and that's, to me, is not letting go of thought. Um, Writing, like just automated writing before you get into a meditation, just writing for like 5 minutes straight, not thinking, not censoring yourself, just getting everything you're thinking about. Just, it doesn't have to make sense, but just taking that moment to just kind of get 2 pages out of just whatever, and just let the thoughts get out, and then go into a meditation. It was just breathing, um, would allow you to kind of release that. And so any kind of question that you're writing about, or qualm, perhaps I would say, hopefully, that qualm, you may have answered that by, the end of the meditation. Not to put an expectation on your meditation, but I find that it helps me empty my thoughts before I go into that stillness.
That's wonderful advice. I actually was going to, let me add on to that, and just, as a yoga instructor, I always remind people that the reason we do yoga is to prepare the body for stillness. And so I like to get up and move, either through a yoga practice, whether it's through stretching, exercise, or sometimes I just do like a little sadhana, little dance. I'll play like one of them long Stevie Wonder songs, or like a 10-minute long Fela Kuti song. And then I'll just go off for like 10 minutes. And then by the time you got the music, you've enriched your environment, you felt the rhythm in your bones, you've allowed your body to be free with movement. And then for me, it's all about, then I come back and I have a seat and I come back to the breath. And as I'm catching my breath, then I'm kind of able to kind of settle into that meditative state. But that is something that I've kind of developed through this quarantine that we're in, because I used to feel that I needed to go to the yoga studio, and I do hot yoga. So I had to go crank up the heat, go 60 minutes straight in order to feel like I was ready to sit. But now I feel that just like having a little 10-minute dance break in my little room is it right before I flop into my beanbag chair. It's enough, it's enough. Let's see. Jamie, did you have anything else to add on that?
No, actually, I think you just made a really great segue, because we've been talking a lot about internal self-care, meditation, and that's all internal. But you just mentioned some lovely external self-care too: beanbag chair, hot tea, just little gestures to butler yourself. I like to pretend that I'm my own butler. You know how like Bruce Wayne has Alfred, and I'm like, okay, what would Alfred do for Bruce Wayne? Oh, he's going to lay out my pajamas for me and put the little massage oil out near the bathtub for me. I butler myself. It's sweet. Can you cultivate some sweetness for yourself into your daily life?
That is so critical. And this is a lesson I learned from my mother. She's the queen of this, but my mom, she'll do like a whole spa day at the house, and even now, I'm a person that enjoys writing things down. I like fun pins and that kind of stuff. So like I'll make myself a spa day calendar. I'll write out what exactly I'm going to do, the order, and, get my little Pinterest recipes going. And it use stuff from my kitchen to make recipes. And to me, that is the ultimate self-care, because it's the time. It's just like taking the time to do something I enjoy. Jaquay, what's something that you like to do that's like an external form of self-care that's not internal, like meditation?
Oh, so many things. I really do, like Jamie said, I like to treat myself. We put ourselves through the ringer and work so hard, and we're like, I'm trying to achieve all of these goals. But it goes back to that old adage, treat yourself how you want others to treat you. And, be your own Alfred. I really enjoy baths. Bath rituals are the best to me, to me. I don't know about anyone else. But definitely a good workout, right? Um, and I would say another physical self-care practice is a childhood, like,
I'm trying to determine if it's my
a
internet
lot of times
connection
we
or
get
hers.
older and we let go. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sitting right next to the router. I'm trying.
I'm sorry. No, you were saying a childhood something, and you're like, we let go of our childhood, which is
A
true.
child, yeah, we let go of our childhood hobbies. The things that we love to do as children. Whether that's playing in the dirt, whether that's coloring, but translating that into something that, related to adulthood. Of course, we don't want to go outside and see a 40-year-old woman making mud pies. We will get worried. However, that may translate to, her, working in a garden, her just having that connection with nature the way she used to as a child. If you loved roller skating, getting you some outdoor skates and taking that adventure daily to connect with that part of yourself that brought joy, like that essential pure joy. And so I try to incorporate something that has always been a part of me, physically every week, whether that's, the baths with my crystals, because, when I was a child, I collect rocks. I never knew why. And then as I got older and understood what crystals, the benefits of them, then I was like, oh, wow, this has been with me all the time. So um, just pampering myself and pampering and prepping.
I love that moment, that advice to go to something from your childhood, because I did. I bought a sewing machine during the quarantine. I made this beanbag I'm sitting in right now. I got some skates. And it has been so much fun, just remembering how much I used to really enjoy those things as a kid. And I think that anything that you can do to activate your imagination is going to, again, support your art, whatever your artistic expression is. Having access to your imagination and being able to access your creative side is going to I think enhance you artistically. So we just talked about some internal care for self-care. We talked about some external things, exercise, dance. I've seen in the chat some people have shared some really interesting things that they do for self-care. A lot of people have mentioned therapy as a form of self-care. I absolutely support that. People have said they listen to music, dance, work on crafts. I am such a crafty person. Whenever I'm feeling stressed out, I'm like, where are my markers? Where's my sewing kit? Love crafts for relaxation. But one thing I did want to, post-it notes reminding myself I need to practice having patience for myself and take deep breaths. I have a timer on my phone that does that also, just so you all know, that's an option. Take a break every few hours. Coco said that she's binging Schitt's Creek and eating Snickers ice cream bars. Sometimes you got to do it. Sometimes you got to do it. And of course, therapy. Yes, absolutely. And beauty routine. I'm trying to get better at that because it's like pouring into yourself. So I'm trying to get better at the beauty routine. And just like a really solid morning routine, I have found is a good form of self-care for me to kind of start my day off on the right track and, wake myself up. I'm trying to practice waking up full of gratitude. So one thing I did want to say, I did want to ask about excuse me, one thing I wanted to ask about is how can we express self-care in the workplace, right? How can self-care as a practice extend from pouring into ourselves, making sure that we're taking time for stillness and breath, into protecting ourselves and taking care of ourselves when we step into either work environments or when we start to work on projects as artists? How does self-care operate in that way?
I'll go. I think when we prioritize self-care, all of the beautiful external things you're putting in the comments and that we talked about, and then also the internal things, when we practice that and make it a habit of practicing that, what we're really saying to ourselves is, I am worthy. I am worth this time to take care of my body. I am worth this time to take care of my mind. And so when you practice that kind of self-worth, you can't help but bring that into the workplace. I am worthy. I show up to work worthy. So if that's an environment that is maybe chaotic, the people around you may not be implementing as much self-care as you are, or maybe there's even some hostility in the workplace, you have cultivated and are in the practice of cultivating beautiful self-worth, which you were born with, by the way. Sometimes we get talked out of it, and we have to have a come to it moment as an adult or a young adult and say, oh, wait, I have forgotten something. I forgot that I am worth this time. I am worth this effort. I'm worth this self-care that I'm implementing. And you naturally bring that to the room. I belong here. I'm worthwhile. My contribution is worthy, and no one can take that away from you.
That is so important to take with you into the workplace, especially if you come from a marginalized community where you may go into the room and you look around. If you come from a marginalized community, you go into the room, you look around, and the first thing you do is try to see and assess if you're the only person like you in the room. And so sometimes that moment when you realize that you are the only person like you in the room, it can be difficult. It can spark feelings of inferiority. It can make you feel like you're not empowered to speak up for yourself. But having this self-care practice before you even get into the room will help shore you up and help give you the confidence you need to go into that room, as Jamie said, knowing the full power of your worth and knowing your full value. And I think that that's super critical, especially as we talk to our emerging artists and our early career artists who are transitioning out of a safe space, maybe where they're in school. Hopefully their school is a safe space for them. I know for me, what said in the green room stays in the green room, coming up and going into an environment where not only may they be marginalized, but they may also feel that they're young, and sometimes people tend to, play young people like they don't know what they're talking about, even when they do. So yeah, I definitely think that's important. Jaquay, what are your thoughts on taking this self-care practice into the workplace?
It is absolutely vital. When we all deal with traumas, and some of the traumas that we deal with, they do happen at work. And so when you are in a consistent self-care practice, it allows you at the least to try to have a way to kind of orient yourself and center yourself and ground yourself so that you're prepared to go into the workplace and be functional, and almost be like a water in a duck where it rolls off your back, but I understand that is not always possible. But when you are practicing self-care and you're able to recognize those moments where you need to stand up for yourself, you're doing it with a level of compassion and concern, that it's not just fight or flight, and maybe responding in a way that we do that may be not so constructive in the way we respond to trauma. So when we are practicing and we have an encounter, I think that when we have established a routine, it allows you to not be the gasoline on the flames, so to speak, in the workplace. And then two, other people feel it around you. They feel that around you, that self-respect, that compassion that you have for yourself. It's really hard to be mean to a person who is so stable and centered and unfazed. I know that's hard. But sometimes when we feed the flame, it only makes it worse. And part of self-care is definitely choosing your battles.
Yeah, I think that's really valuable advice. Choosing your battles as a form of self-care. Did you have something to add, Jamie? Oh, okay. I thought you were coming up to the mic. But yes, definitely choosing your battles as a form of self-care. And what Jaquay, just to echo what she said, a lot of times when we go into a situation and our feelings get hurt, then the tendency can be to become reactionary and to react from a place of trauma or to react from a place of anger. But again, having a consistent self-care practice grounds you and kind of helps them to ensure that you're coming from a place of compassion and care, as Jaquay just said, instead of a place of anger, especially since the reality of the situation is nobody wants to burn any bridges. Nobody wants to be told you'll never work in this town again. And so, yes, you do sometimes have to take the high road, even when you're in a situation where you're not being taken seriously or you're not being heard. And also, too, since a lot of our participants are actors, I wanted to maybe even talk about how setting boundaries and saying no sometimes is how can that be a form of self-care? Do you have any advice on how people can protect themselves, or like how people can take care of themselves by like saying no or setting boundaries, or maybe even turning down work, or if you have to leave a job? Do you all have any thoughts on that kind of scenario? And then also too, before you respond, just a reminder to the people who are watching, please drop your questions in the chat and we'll make sure, here, let me put my banner up, and we'll make sure that we get your questions answered. I see that there's already one really good one. We're going to get to that one in a sec. So yeah, how do you take care of yourself by like saying no or turning things down or leaving situations?
Yeah, that's a challenging, and I think it's an important question to address, because here I am, I'm in my mid 40s and I've been performing my whole life. And honestly, it's taken me a long time to cultivate the status to say no and to not have any fear of burning bridges or being thought of in a certain way. So the fact that you're here today at such an early stage in your career, I'm just so excited for you to have this empowerment so early on. But it does take time to develop. And I'd say the first step of doing that is to cultivate a mindset of abundance. So sometimes, like when I was in my early 20s, I felt all this scarcity, and I was like, I take this job, and if I don't take it, then I'll never work again. And and I was like, hungry hippo. Sorry, I have kids. You know what I mean? I was like scooping up all the marbles and being like hoarding all the marbles, because I was like, I need to take these jobs and I need to say yes to everything, or else it'll destroy my reputation. And I ran myself ragged. And I often couldn't do my best work because I had run myself ragged. And it turns out that there are enough jobs for everyone, and that you're going to be okay if you say no, thank you. I've been on the other end. I've been on the producing end, and that taught me a lot about, when someone came into the room and they were professional, prepared, friendly, and adaptable, and then they said no thank you to our offer, we were like, dang, well, we'll get them on another project. We were never thinking, well, Jaquay will never work with our theater company. dare she say no to us, right? We didn't do that. We were actually rooting for that person, being like, dang, we didn't get him. Someone else got him. Shoot. But I want to say that you can start cultivating this abundance mindset now. And the one tip to do that, and maybe LJ and Jaquay have their offerings, but one way to do that is to, going back to something we said earlier, is to let go of attachment, that this job is going to make or break you. I've had lots of jobs and not one of them made me and not one of them broke me, because at the end of the day, I'm always me, always me.
Ooh, that was a word. It's not going to make or break me. It was a word. That was a word of the day. Boundaries. I have to let go, and I'm still working on that. The people pleaser. Wanting to feel like I want everyone to be happy. Even if I'm not happy, I want other people to be happy. So I need to not be, I need to go along with this. I need to do this project. I need to help them out. I want to see their dream come to life. I want to see them be successful. But it goes back to what I was saying about putting yourself in the center. Are you writing down, look at your plan. Are you writing down your plan? Is this offer aligned with the plan? Somewhere in there, somewhere. Or is this just a favor? And, is it going to be worth it? So as Jamie said, you don't need every job, especially if it's something especially if it's something you don't believe in. It doesn't need to be that you take everything.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And just to add on to that, and I'll find a link for it, but I recently took a workshop with Ann James, and she's developing an intimacy coordinators of color cohort. And what she's working on doing is expanding the job of the intimacy coordinator from just doing, intimate physical scenes to also dealing with difficult language, performing difficult characters, reenacting difficult histories. And a big part of the work that she does is empowering actors to set those boundaries ahead of time, doing boundary checks when you get into the room. And even if it's just a simple thing is like, okay, here is okay today. Here is okay. This is not okay today. Like just, being very articulate about that. And as I was sitting in her workshop, it just occurred to me that this is self-care for actors as well, because a lot of times we don't give actors the opportunity to protect themselves, to set those boundaries and be completely comfortable in these roles. And since we're talking about Ann James, which by the way, I just love her work. Y'all got to go look her up. But since we're talking about Ann James, one thing that she mentioned in her workshop goes back to something Jaquay said about cleansing your character. I don't know if this is a practice that a lot of people have or are familiar with, but if you're portraying a difficult character, maybe you're a white person that has to portray a racist person and you have to use language that you're not comfortable using as an individual. But in order to do the job you've been hired to do, you have to use that language. Self-care for the artist is also making a practice where you take that character off at the end of rehearsal. You take that character off at the end of the show run, and you can make a ritual for yourself where you do that. Maybe you take off when you take your costume off one piece at a time. And as you take your costume off, different parts of that character fall off until you're left with yourself once again. And so little things like that, even though it's not necessarily like a full-on meditation practice, it's not a yoga practice, but it is absolutely a critical form of self-care, I think, for artists and performers. And I really hope that as an industry, it's a practice that we adopt across the board to make sure we're taking care of our artists. So yeah, definitely setting boundaries and, honoring the self and not pressuring artists to have to like always dig into their personal traumas in order to play efficient characters. You don't have to have a nervous breakdown in the rehearsal process in order to do your job as an actor. And so if I say nothing else on this panel today, I did want to get that out there, especially since so many of our viewers are emerging artists and early career artists. Start the trend now, make so we can get it across the board that, you know, actors are people too, and you can protect your sanity, and you don't have to, you know, you can set boundaries in the rehearsal room. Yeah.
Oh, LJ, I just love what you said so much. And I just really loved hearing it. And it's information that you can hear again and again and again in your career. And it's just a great reminder. But I loved what you said about creating a ritual around it. I think the theater is a place that is designed for ritual. You probably have developed rituals that you don't even realize that you have developed. For example, you're on the run of a show and you're like, well, at places, I always add my last bit of lipstick. And then I sit in the same chair and I say hi to this person backstage. And like, you have little rituals in place. And so why not have a self-care ritual after your performance to say, no, whoever they are that you were portraying, that I leave them here. They live here in the theater. And I take myself home. I take my dignity home. I take the knowledge that I did my best work in representing this character, but they stay here tonight and I get to go home. I love that, LJ. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, I didn't, you know, I got that from Ann James. If you get a chance, definitely check out her work, because I think that that is really empowering. I think that, you know, in my opinion, I feel that you may be able to better portray your character if you have that ritual, because you don't want anything becoming a barrier between you being able to give your 100% to that character. And if you are having a hard time drawing a line between yourself and somebody you're portraying, that's going to be a hindrance. So I really think that that kind of practice is really important. Let's take a question or two from the chat. All right. So we have here, and I think Jaquay is back, but if not, you can always hop into the comments to answer. But Annie says she struggles to balance honoring her feelings when she's sad, disinterested, irritable, etc., and being a positive energy for others, especially on Zoom. How can we take care of ourselves when everything is so like, you got to be like on all the time in this quarantine world? I have thoughts on that, but I'll let you all go first.
And I fear my connection. So I believe that you definitely want to, I feel like you should be honest with the people around you. If you are not feeling it that day, if you need to email your supervisor and say, listen, or your teammates, hey, you don't have to get into your life, but it's okay to say, you know, today, this is where I am today. So I don't want anyone to take it personal, but this is where I am. And a lot of times what I like about the artistic community is that we do get to check in. We, you know, at the beginning of rehearsals, we're like, let's check in. How are you feeling? And, you know, out there in the work world, they may not get that as a pharmacist, they may not get that check-in moment. But maybe if you're an artist, if you're not, you can take that into the workplace. Take that to your management and say, hey, you know what? I think the morale would be so much better around here if, you know, right before the team meetings, we all just kind of said how we feel. That way everyone knows, you know, today I'm anxious. Today, I am proud of myself. So don't come and rain on my parade. Okay. Just be honest. I definitely don't believe in smiling, just because you want to do it for others. You know, definitely smile because you want to catch up to the physical self. Smile to send that brain signal and get some of those hormones shifting for yourself into a happy zone.
Wonderful. Jamie, advice?
Yeah, I mean, Jaquay really said it all. But I just want to remind everybody who's in the room, right? We all get to be in the room where it happens, that rehearsal room where like you're bringing your energy of the day. You're there because you belong there. And You didn't sign a contract that said you will be playing the role of Clarice and you have to also be happy for everybody all the time. And if you're not, you have to fake it, right? That is not part of your contract. When people want to collaborate with you because you're so freaking talented, and I think I happen to know the person who asked this question. I think we worked together several years ago, so I know that you are so freaking talented, that you in that room with that talent, you don't owe us anything else. You don't owe us anything but that talent that you have. Bring it. And then between, scene work, if you want to be by yourself, if you want to put up a hand, say, not today, Jamie, don't feel like it. That is totally fine. That is totally allowed. Even on Zoom, your talent is, and I'm not just speaking to Annie, I'm speaking to everyone. You're there because you belong there. How you feel is how you feel. You don't have to fake it for anybody.
Yes, yes, that is exactly how I feel as well. Everyone watching, you all know I come on here every week and I, tell y'all all my business. Y'all know where I'm at with this organization. Y'all know how stressful it is, how hard it is raising money and all of that. What I'm trying when I'm trying new things with my marketing. You all know I'm experimenting with the text campaign. So that for me is a major key. I have to be able to be myself all the time. Otherwise, I feel very uncomfortable and I start to feel pressure. And so it's very freeing for me to be able to, even in a situation like this webinar, where I know that, we have people watching live and then there's 100 or more people watch the replay. It's still really important for me to feel that I can come in here. And if it's a sit in my beanbag chair kind of day and have my tea kind of day, then I could just be honest about that and just be myself. It's the only way that I can keep it sane in this crazy year that we're having. And then when it comes to Zoom, I don't feel that it's necessary for people's cameras to be on all the time. And so I in the various settings and where I'm a teacher, it's not something I require of students, because how can I ask a student to do something that I myself find difficult? So yeah, if you feel that you need to turn your camera off, turn your camera off. I saw a meme the other day and it was like, do you have Zoom fatigue, or are you trying to maintain your sanity and take care of your family and also try not to catch a virus in the middle of a global pandemic? Like, is it Zoom fatigue, or is it, everything is really hard right now fatigue? So we're all experiencing a difficult time just in general, and we are all fully aware of it. And so I hope that gives us a little bit of grace with one another. But yeah, don't feel like you got to do any kind of fake smiling, even though people will ask that of you. We have another question. So Pamela wants to know advice on how to forgive oneself when one has acted harshly and made a mistake in the heat of the moment. Do you think it's possible to get a second chance to make an impression? This is such a great question. Thoughts?
Acting harshly. I tend to be an expert at that. I will say it's an opportunity. Look at outbursts or episodes as an opportunity to see where your opportunity is to repair. Okay. It's definitely nothing to overlook. It definitely it hurts your pride, because we all want to be like the person who, I did that right and I only reacted this way because this person did this to me. But we have to go inside and say, okay, what is it about this situation? What trauma did this arouse? How could I have dealt with that another way? And you have to let it go. It's over. What you can say is, hey, let me replay that back. So if this ever happened again, what can I do that's better next time? And, if it's someone close, if it's a conversation that can be had, I believe that, transparency, like I said, is always great. I mean, you don't want to go into a conversation and make excuses. You definitely want to be apologetic and be accountable for how you are reacting in the world and how you're treating others. But there is redemption. Everything can be turned around, and that's how we need to look at it. Even if it can't be turned around with that particular person or that entity or that opportunity, there's going to be more. And you're going to learn from that. And you're going to remember that.
Wonderful. Jamie, advice?
That was so good. I really don't have much to add. I mean, the redemption that Jacoy talks about, I mean, this is what nature demonstrates all the time, that we get infinite chances. And like Jacoy said, it may not be reparable with the group or company or person that original heated moment happened with. But again, I just want to reiterate what Jacoy said so eloquently, is that you get to use that information and put it toward the next thing. And so when nature's constantly demonstrating infinite chances, then we can rest assured and let go of those moments where we've made a mistake. If it is reparable with that individual or entity, then give it a shot. And if it's not, go ahead and rest assured and forgive the self by reminding yourself that, I just can't even say it better than Jacoy said it. It's an opportunity. Where can I use this towards the next thing? And every single one of us has done it or will do it. So you can use, when in the forgiveness component, have the unity knowledge that every single person and the person that you may have offended has done it. That doesn't make it right, but it's just a way of saying, whew, I am not the only person in the world who's made a mistake. Every single person has, and I'm going to move forward.
Yes, nobody is perfect, and we can't expect perfection from other people, and we certainly cannot expect perfection from ourselves. I'm a Virgo. That's very difficult for me. But it is part of my practice because I know that it's something that I struggle with. And so it is something that I have to make sure I'm continuously practicing and that I'm always thinking about. Because again, it is a practice. It's something that you're always working on. There's no destination. It's just making sure that you're incorporating these things into your everyday life, into your habits, and into your daily rituals. Yeah, definitely an opportunity. I love that. Remember that it's an opportunity to assess and reassess, and then next time it comes up, maybe approach things differently. So yes, if you have any additional questions for our panelists, make sure that you add them to the chat. One thing that I did want to talk to you both about, because all three of us are artists and theater people, but we also have another, as many theater people do, another job within the self-care world. I'm a yoga instructor. I teach all types of yoga, including prenatal. And Jaquay is also a yoga instructor. And Jamie, you lead meditations. Is that right? Yes. So how does your self-care job support your art job? Like, how does it work? Like, we've talked a lot during the series about having other jobs and making sure that you have income in order to support your artwork. And so I just wanted to kind of like call out the self-care world as an opportunity to, make some money that's not necessarily, waiting tables or, delivering for UPS or whatever. So can you talk a little bit about that? How did you end up, I guess, in this as a job?
All right. I ended up teaching yoga. Like I said, I was dealing just with a lot of emotional a lot of emotional, I guess, what would I say, obstacles. And I didn't want to always rely on having to go see someone or having to seek someone else out or having to take this medication for this or that. I said, how can I live a prosperous life that is going to, and how can I take control of my emotions? So that's how I started. I literally started a yoga training so that I could learn how to do yoga better. I kind of never thought that I would end up teaching it for real, for real. And I find that I went on a few events and then people would say, "Oh, let's do yoga." And I did it for fun, Urban Camp Weekend, LJ. And I was like, "Oh, let's just, it'll be fun if we do yoga." And then it just kind of grew into something in this thing. But I would say that my job as a yoga instructor helps me remember my self-care. I really don't, it's not like I'm rolling around and I'm like, ooh, I got a Tesla because I'm a yoga instructor. I'm not living that life. You know, I'm, I'm not one of the, the big shot yogis, I guess, but I'm definitely rich with tools on how to deal with this regular life, this life that you guys hear in the background. Everything helps me remember how to um, just stay sane. And I feel like it's a contribution to everyone else. Like it's my offering. It's almost like my missionary work. So whether I get paid for it or not, I still find fulfillment in it. Um, how do I bring it to the work? Oh, best believe it's on every resume. Like, listen, I can do all the poses. I can do all of the meditation voices. I can do all of those voiceovers. I can speak in Sanskrit. All of that is on my artistic resume. Um, and I definitely, like I said, I bring it into the artistic process. I'm making sure if I'm producing or whatever, even with me and LJ, we're two fiery buds, right? And we'll like sit out and sound off on stuff, and we're super, super honest with each other. And we're like, "Oh, well, I don't really like that. I hear that. I'm not letting that affect me." And I'm going to tell you, I do like Antony and Cleopatra, and I want you to go ahead and read it. So, it's like, it helps give and take. Oh, but I really want to say one thing too before it all closes too. We say a lot about self-care, and we don't include community as self-care. And I think I never realized how much I needed people until we couldn't be around people. I was one of those people. I like to stay in the house. Oh my God, my friends invite me. I don't want to go. Now I'm like, friends, where are you? And that's a part of self-care too, is having that community, whether that's your therapist, whether that's your mentors, whether that's your church, whether that's your yoga studio, your yoga fellowship, or your theater troupe. I'm gonna shut up now.
No, that was wonderful. Thank you so much for that. I told you I will read the play. I will read the play. I read the play. I read the play. Jamie, advice?
Yes. So you could potentially have a supplemental income job in the self-care industry. That is an option to you. My guess is that because you're artists, that you're already sort of oriented towards higher vibration. I don't want to get too woo-woo on you, but you're probably already oriented towards, well, it's quite simply the magic of theater, right? That thing that happens when we're all in the room together, whether it's the rehearsal room or the theater, that connection to everybody in the room. If you're someone who's sensitive to that, if you're someone who's on stage or in the booth or behind, in the wings, and you're sensing oneness with the people on stage, the people backstage, the 500 people in the audience, then you're already oriented toward any kind of self-care. Whether that expresses itself as teaching yoga or meditation or life coaching, these are all optional supplementary income options. I nannied for years. I've waited tables. I've cleaned ATM machines. You guys, I've done it all. And becoming a meditation teacher totally caught me by surprise. I was practicing, I was loving it, and then it just clicked. I was like, I'm having such a profound experience. I need to help other people have this experience. So I just naturally fell into teaching. And I think, tell me if this is true for you, LJ and Jaquay, but I became a teacher because I wanted to ease other people's suffering. And I felt like I had done it so well and was in the process of doing it so well for myself that I wanted to pass that on. It was almost compulsion. Like I have to pass this on. So like Jaquay, I do not have a Tesla yet. But I have a great balance of teaching meditation and performing. And because of the work I do, because I practice letting go for 20 minutes twice a day, I'm not worried about what's next. I'm present to what's now. Do I have enough today? If the answer is yes, then you're good. Have a good day. If the answer is no, reach out to your community. So Jaquay said that part of your self-care is developing and cultivating a community. This is the time to do it. And if there's ever a day where the answer to the question is the question of, do I have enough today? If the answer is no, you reach out to your community, and then you will have enough for today.
That is so beautiful and just so true, and just such a good way of practicing being present in the moment. Just checking in with yourself. We've dropped a lot, Sanskrit, some, talk about doing no harm and non-attachment and staying present. But these are all just general things that will help you, and that you have probably actually heard in the rehearsal room at some point, right? If you mess up something, to let it go, that is just an extension of non-attachment. So like Jamie and Jaquay, everything they say, yes, yes, yes. I've been practicing yoga for about 10 years, back when I thought I was a performer, before I realized that there are other areas in the theater that are better suited for me. What yoga did for me was it helped me to better access my breathing, and it helped me to figure out how to create space in my body in order to be more comfortable with movement. So these are all things that actors and performers need, and that theater people need. And y'all know I'm going to come to y'all with the practical stuff too. So one reason I started teaching yoga is because I was working for a dance company during the recession, and nobody was buying tickets to dance shows. And so I ended up losing my job, and I felt like I didn't have anything to fall back on, because all of my eggs were in the performing arts basket, and there was no performing arts at the time. And so that made me tap into a feeling of scarcity, right? Like not having enough, not having a backup plan. And so I upped my yoga practice during that time because I was feeling very stressed out. And then they offered teacher training, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. And every time in my life where I have had a lag in other jobs, I've been able to pick up more yoga classes, so maybe for the most part, I teach yoga for the free membership, so I don't have to pay money to go to a gym. So again, there's no Tesla, but I don't pay money to go work out anywhere. I haven't paid a studio fee or anything like that in a long time. But if I'm in a moment where I'm especially broke, I'm having more time in between jobs, I can then go pick up more yoga classes and teach more yoga classes to supplement my income. And for those of you who are actors and, have to audition during the day, it's yet another job where you can be flexible with the schedule. So just throw that out there. Just that, from a practical perspective, my partner was making fun of me because I got my master's degree in May and it's still floating around like a piece of notebook paper. I don't have it framed or put up on the wall or anything. And he's like, but you have your yoga certificate framed. I'm like, when this master's degree makes me as much money as this yoga certificate, I'll go to Goodwill and get a frame for that too. So, I mean, it's not, you're not going to get rich off of it, but it's a good way to supplement your income, especially if you are looking for something that's going to, boost your creativity and help you as an artist as well. So I highly recommend. There are certain areas that I think are really well suited for performers: teaching, education, and any kind of self-care practice. I think artists are really good at those things. Let's take another question from the audience, shall we? What steps or advice do you recommend taking when self-care means leaving a job that causes you too much stress? I'm a maroon, so I have a lot of opinions on this, but I'll let Jamie go first.
Whoa, this is a good one. Steps and advice when self-care means leaving a job. Yes. Okay. You just got to leap forward. Staying in a job that crushes your soul and causes you stress is never going to be evolutionary for you. You have so much courage leaving a job that causes you too much stress. It takes a tremendous amount of courage. It also takes a tremendous amount of courage to be an artist. So I know you have it. So now what are the steps? Know that you're doing the right thing. You're leaving a toxic situation, right? So stress is toxic. It's proven. Science is proven, right? It causes all kinds of malfunctions in the body and in the mind. So letting go is the right thing to do. So sitting with that knowledge, I think, is one positive step to take. In terms of the practical, LJ is so good at practical, so maybe she'll talk about this, but in terms of lining up another source before you let go of that job might be practical, right? Because we don't want to create more suffering. So, we let go of toxic job, but now we're suffering because we can't pay our bills, right? So there's practical aspects here. But leaving a job that causes you too much stress is absolutely a courageous and, to borrow LJ's word, revolutionary, and to add my own word, evolutionary thing to do. What is the best next step for you, Ebony? Is leaving that toxic job. Now, how do we support you in having something practical lined up so that you're not suffering without an income? I think my cohorts will have more to say about that.
Jacquay, do you have anything to say about that?
I do. I do. I would say, I want to say this first because that was just right. I felt like it was right. What do we say? Dovetailing off of what Jamie was going to say, or it's what she's saying. Definitely start reaching out to your community. I know we all like to just kind of like not put our burdens on other people or not let people know what's going on. But very beneficial to kind of talk to at least someone about what's going on at work so you can kind of get a perspective that's not just kind of fed with anything internal that may be misinforming you about the situation. I would say also start thanking the universe for the new opportunities ahead of time. Just start being grateful. Start not looking at this circumstance and saying, oh, how did I get here? Oh my God, I hate this cubicle. You know what? I got my favorite pen and I am writing up my cover letter right now. I've got time. I got time to, I'm gaining experience. What am I getting from this experience right now that's going to help me in my next opportunity? I know it is torturous right now, but there's got to be something that I'm learning for something in the future. And definitely start. Um, don't let anything scare you into staying, because the more we hold on to something, we hoard things. We don't have any room for anything new or anything that we're asking the universe for, because we're hanging on for fear. We're so cluttered with fear and doubt. When you say, "Hey, I gotta have this job," it's saying to you, you're telling your own spirit, "I don't think that you can go out here and get something better. Oh, I don't think you can make a living at what you really want to do." So that's why you need to go to Chili's and you need to put that queso on those people's tables, which is okay if that's what you like to do. I'm just saying that if you're somewhere where you're miserable, I don't think it's ever worth it. It's ever worth it. There's something that you can find within yourself and your creativity, and self-care is, like you said, as a business. Do you know how much self-care we're going to need? We're going to need community care. You know how many people are going to want some type of massage, scalp massages, hand massages, just the human contact. I even foresee people just needing people to talk to, paying people literally to just walk me through the park and talk with me. So figure out creative ways to use what's going on to kind of empower you to. Um, but yeah, you're so worth more than going through hell every day.
Yes, 100% to what both Jamie and Jaquay said. It's never worth it. If you're staying in a job, it a lot of times it is from a place of fear, like you're not going to be able to get something else or something better. And as Jamie said, we know that that's not true. You are an artist, you are brave, you are capable, you can find a better job. So the first step is to start applying for other jobs, right? That's the first thing that you do. When you're ready to leave a job that's causing you stress, the first thing you do is you start to apply for other jobs. That'll give you an idea of where you're at in the job market, right? Like, are you getting responses? It'll give you practice at writing a cover letter. It'll give you a chance to tweak your resume, because every time you apply for a job, you'll do a little something different on your resume. Some things will stick, some things won't. So the first step is to just start applying for other jobs. Never tell yourself that you're not qualified. Let somebody else tell you you're not qualified. There's a lot of people out there doing jobs they're not qualified for, and all because they were like, forget it, I'll just apply. So you need to take that confidence and that can-do attitude on yourself, and just see what's out there, and just start applying. And then again, leaning on your community, having a sounding board, getting advice from people, and then allowing your friends to gas you up, because they will. You'll be like, oh, let me tell you what happened at this job today. And then your friends will be like, I told you should have been left that job. They don't deserve you. Just let them gas you up, and pick up that confidence, unless you know that they're not being honest with you. You got to be honest with yourself, as far as what the position is. But if you're truly in a place where you're suffering microaggressions, you're not being heard, you're being disrespected, you're asked to do work that is outside of the scope and sequence of your job, these are all major red flags, and these are all things that can threaten your inner peace. So yeah, that I would say the first step would be to apply for jobs. Me personally, my organization is called Maroon Arts and Culture. We're named after formerly enslaved people who ran into the wilderness because they just were not able to cope with the institution of slavery, and they created whole new societies amongst themselves in the wilderness. I consider myself a Maroon from the mainstream institution and a lot of these major theater institutions, especially because I have consistently found myself having to leave situations where I was doing everything I just said, suffering microaggressions, being asked to do work that was outside of the scope and sequence of my job, not being heard. I have a very young face. So people tend to, Jaquay also, but people tend to not respect my credentials and my experience. And so, it's been a journey being able to speak up for myself and defend myself. But in times where I felt I couldn't do that, yeah, you have to leave. And for me, the ultimate form of self-care and I know I say this a lot, but for me, the ultimate form of self-care was starting my own business to not only ensure that I don't have to deal with that to the same degree, right? Because I do still have clients, I do still have customers and individuals that I work with that sometimes that comes up, but I have the power to say no more. I have the power to pick and choose my work and work on projects that empower me instead of bring me down. And so for me, the ultimate form of self-care was to start my own business and able to be my own boss. And again, to go back to what we said earlier, a lot of times you get into self-care as an income source because you want to spread that around. And so again, with Maroon Arts and Culture, it's an opportunity to create an institution that is a reflection of what I feel is important in terms of self-care for artists. And so it's not enough for me to escape some of these situations. I want to then create what I feel is the better version where people feel like they're being taken care of. So maybe it's that. Maybe instead of looking for another job, maybe you take care of yourself by creating a job for yourself that is serving you. So that's my little soapbox for today. I always encourage people to work for themselves because people will try to take advantage of you. I mean, they really, really will. And especially if they are not accustomed to hearing a confident voice come out of a mouth that looks like yours. But don't let them play you. That's my advice. That's my advice. Take care of yourselves. You're valuable. You're intelligent. You're brilliant. You're talented. You're creative. You are valuable. I value you. And don't let anybody tell you differently. That's how I feel. Jamie, Jaquay, do you all have any parting words, any advice, any mantras or for our participants today and for arts for themselves?
Yes, I do. Uh, I've just loved this conversation so much, and I've had one eye on the comments over here, and I just love theater people so much. You're the most radiant people in the world. Just, I thank you for sharing your vulnerability, and I thank LJ and Jaquay for sharing their light and knowledge and wisdom. And my advice, since that was the task at hand, right, LJ? You said, do I have any advice? Yes. Make self-care a priority. Budget it into your schedule. And know that you are worthy. You were born worthy. I'm just so looking forward to the tremendous contributions that you'll be making when theater's back on its feet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Jaquay, do you have any takeaways for today?
My takeaways today are just, as Jamie said, really budget it in. When you get off this call today, set you a daily alarm clock that says something like, hey, self care time, or whatever that is, so that you're consciously making the choice. Okay, so you're setting in your alarm and you're saying, I'm going to do this. So when you look at it, you realize, am I taking this moment? Okay, I'm going to take this moment. So be accountable to yourself. Also, a mantra that I always like to use is I am everything I need to be right here, right now. Okay, so no matter where you are in life, you're right where you're supposed to be.
That's beautiful. I am everything I need. What is it? I am everything I
I am
I am
I am
everything.
everything and have everything I need right
I
now.
am everything and have everything I need right now, here and now. That's beautiful.
Right here and right now. Something like
Make it
that.
work.
You guys
Make it
get
work.
it. Remix it.
I love that. And I think it's important to remember Um, thank you. Thank you, Camille, for writing it down. And I just, just want to encourage everyone watching to realize that this is super important. I mean, self care is not optional if you want to have a sustained life in the arts. If you want to have a long lasting career in the arts, you have to make it a priority, because this is a industry that we see it on TV all the time. It wears people out. It creates vulnerabilities, and so you want to make sure that it is a priority. If it's okay, I would like to end with Jamie giving us her definition of self-care one more time, if that's okay. And while she grabs it, I just want to also shout out some resources. I just remembered the Liberate app. It's an app for meditations for and by people of color. So if that's something that you're looking for, a tool, the Liberate app is a good tool. And then there's also, there was something else I was going to shout out, but if I remember, I'll add it to the Padlet. All right, Jamie, will you share your definitions with us one more time, and then we will break.
Okay. Self-care is action taken to tend to the needs of the body and mind with the intent to create or maintain well-being.
Wonderful. Take that with you. And thank you all for tuning in and for your participation. Thank you so much, Jamie and Jaquay, for joining us on this wonderful conversation. I will see everyone back next week with Herbert Seguenza and Paula Vogel. Very exciting topic. The idea that in order for us to move forward in this new theater reality, I feel it makes sense for us to look back and get some advice from people who have been doing this for a very long time, who have seen the ups and downs of the theater world, and see what advice they can give us as we move forward in our new reality. So I will see you all next week. Thank you again to my panelists today, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Bye.